In your history class, you are about to enter the 20th century. The 20th century brought more advances, more inventions, and more change to human society than any other century before in history. It was 100 years of revolutions in science, technology, communications, entertainment, and human freedoms. Innovative ideas and incredible inventions changed people's lives completely. It shaped what we know of as the American dream. But let's go back to the beginning. In the late 1800s, most families still lived on farms, and about half of all people, 50% of people in the United States, were poor or hungry. It was very unusual for children to have their own beds. The average person lived until the age of 48, and if you were black, you usually only lived till you were 33. Your house had no electricity, no indoor plumbing, no telephone, and no heat. You most likely traveled by horse and buggy on unpaved roads. And if you got sick, you were most likely just to die. In the cities, factories had just begun to make products for people to buy, but conditions were very unsafe. Often, children as young as 6 and 7 worked in factories, and most work weeks were 60 to 70 hours long with no holidays and no vacations. The electric light bulb and the telephone had just begun, and movies, radio, and television were not yet invented. Certainly the computer and the internet were a long way off. Airplanes were not invented either, and the idea of rockets that brought humans to space was a total fantasy. Yellow fever, polio, and smallpox were common. Antibiotics and vaccines were not yet invented, and neither were x-rays or other mechanical types of patient care. There were no mass spectator sports, no NFL, no NBA, no baseball leagues, no entertainment industry at all. No highways, no skyscrapers, no washing machines or dryers, no cheeseburgers, no bikinis, but the very first selfie was taken in 1900 by this woman with her Kodak Brownie camera in the mirror. No one had been to the North or South Pole or climbed Mount Everest. Women did not work outside the home and were not allowed to vote. Black people were technically free, but segregation and other laws banned them from mixing with whites and prohibited them from voting as well. Over the next 100 years, almost every aspect of society would be challenged and would be changed. People would rise up. They would dare. They would defy. They would confront. They would invent. They would rebel. And they would solve problems. The story of the 20th century is really the many, many stories about how millions of brave people changed their world. But it is also a story of destruction. In addition to change for the better, the 20th century proved to be the most bloody and the most destructive in human history. Over 150 million people would die in never-before-seen global wars and in deliberate human extermination. The 20th century changed almost everything, for the better and for the worse. So how did it all happen? How did we get here? Well, the Progressive Era from 1870 to 1915 set the stage for America's 20th century. You will study most of the 20th century, but in this project we will begin in the years that laid that foundation for everything that came later. I can't wait to see what you will learn.